onset of COVID-19 and the impact on consumer spending habits, we wanted to see if MVNOs were able to steal market share from the larger carriers. As we know, these virtual networks offer a cheaper alternative to the big three wireless carriers. So we first compared site traffic to Google Fi, Visible, Metro by T-Mobile, Straight Talk, and Ting. And what we found was that Straight Talk was the clear leader in terms of site visitation, capturing 34% more visits than their closest competitor in Q2 of this year. However, despite their lead, Straight Talk did have a 20% drop in traffic compared to 2019. Instead, it was Visible and Metro by T-Mobile who showed the strongest growth in site traffic year over year. Visible more than tripled their traffic, and Metro was not far behind with a 250% increase in site traffic year over year. I also want to call out traffic to Visible. As we can see, visits were steadily increasing throughout 2019 and seemed to hit a plateau in Q1 of this year. But then traffic spiked again in Q2, hitting the same levels of traffic that we saw last holiday. So definitely a player that has seen some major growth in the current market. Now, looking at the marketing channels for these carriers, we noticed that direct and organic search combined helped drive the majority of traffic to the competitor set. However, what's interesting is that Visible maintains the highest share of traffic from paid marketing channels. 30% of their traffic comes from email, social, paid search, and display advertising combined. So Visible is clearly investing heavily, which has ultimately helped drive their strong growth in traffic year over year. Next, when we're trying to understand acquisition strategy, it's important to look at the top paid search keywords to see what these carriers are actively targeting. And what we found was that 60% of the top paid search keywords were device related. When we look at the competitive traffic share for those keywords, we notice that Visible captures the largest share. For example, the iPhone XR is the top device search term, with Visible capturing over 40% of that competitive traffic share. Next is the iPhone X, where Visible is able to win close to 60% of that competitive paid search traffic share. Next is the Pixel 3, where Visible is able to win over 70% of that paid search traffic share. Aside from device keywords, MVNOs also bid on search terms around plans, with the top ones being phone plans, cell phone plans, and prepaid phone plans. And these search terms all have one thing in common, and that is a very high CPC, which indicates that there is a lot of competition for these keywords as carriers look to get new subscriptions and drive the lifetime value of their customers. And for these virtual networks especially, they are forced to compete against the larger carriers who have much deeper pockets. And speaking of this competition, I think the big question is whether MVNOs are actually capturing market share from the larger, more expensive operating networks. And the short answer is no. The audience overlap between MVNOs and the big three is still very low, under 10%. I want to call out that this is up from last year, which shows that more and more shoppers are doing more cross-shopping. But again, it's still a very small percentage. Of these cross-shoppers, Metro by T-Mobile has the largest overlap of visitors at 9% with T-Mobile, which is not surprising. But what's interesting is when you flip over to Visible, which is owned by Verizon, they actually have equal percentages of overlap between T-Mobile and Verizon. So again, there is a small percentage of consumers who browse both MVNOs and the big three, but the smaller carriers still have a ways to go before stealing significant market share.